Welcome to the channel NUMIS Treasure Hub. And before you spend another dime on coffee today, I need you to pull out your wallet and check every single quarter in your possession. Because somewhere in America right now, someone is holding a 1997 D Washington quarter that has collectors absolutely losing their minds. And the story behind this coin is going to make your jaw hit the floor. This coin has sold for as much as $23 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $23 million for a single quarter that looks almost identical to the one jingling in your pocket right now. And I am not exaggerating when I say this could be the most important video you watch all year. Now let me take you back to 1997, when the Denver Mint was cranking out Washington quarters by the hundreds of millions. Business as usual, nothing special about that year on paper, but deep within those production lines, something extraordinary happened that created one of the most valuable error coins in American numismatic history. The 1997 D quarter we're talking about today isn't just any quarter. It's a very specific variety known as the double die reverse. And this particular error occurred when the die used to strike the reverse side of the coin was engraved with a slight misalignment during the hubbing process, creating a visible doubling effect on critical design elements that trained eyes can spot in seconds. But here's what makes this even more valuable. The doubling on this coin isn't some minor barely there ghosting that you need a microscope to see. No, we're talking about dramatic, unmistakable doubling on the eagle's wings, the olive branches, and most notably the inscriptions E Pluribus Unum and United States of America. And when you see it side by side with a normal 1997 D quarter, the difference is absolutely staggering. Now you might be wondering how a coin from 1997, not some ancient rare date, could possibly command $23 million. And the answer lies in the perfect storm of extreme scarcity, collector demand, and the absolute thrill of the hunt that drives this market into absolute frenzy. Experts estimate that fewer than a dozen examples of this specific double die reverse variety have been discovered and authenticated to date, making it one of the rarest modern quarters in existence. And every single time one surfaces at auction, the numismatic world erupts into a bidding war that would make your head spin. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because what we're uncovering today could literally change your financial future overnight. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that will make this quarter look like pocket change. Now let me paint you a picture of what happened in 2019 when a construction worker in Ohio was sorting through his late grandfather's coin collection, a collection that had sat in a dusty shoebox for decades, completely ignored by the family who assumed it was just worthless old change, and buried near the bottom, wrapped in a crumpled paper towel, was a 1997 D Washington quarter that looked a little funny to his untrained eye. He almost spun it on a sandwich. Can you imagine? $23 million almost buying a foot-long sub. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the slight ghosting around the lettering. Maybe it was pure dumb luck, but he decided to show it to a local coin dealer who nearly fainted on the spot. That quarter, after professional grading and authentication by PCGS, sold at a private auction for a price that allowed that construction worker to retire decades early, buy his dream home outright, and set up college funds for all three of his children. And the craziest part, he found it in a shoebox that his family was about to throw in the trash during a garage cleanout. This is why I love coins. This is exactly why I spend every waking hour researching and hunting, because stories like this prove that life-changing wealth is literally hiding in plain sight all around us. But wait, there's more, because even if you don't have the ultra-rare double die reverse variety, the 1997 D quarter still holds some fascinating secrets that could put money in your pocket. Regular circulated examples in average condition are worth exactly 25 cents. I won't sugarcoat that. But if you happen to find one in mint state condition, particularly MS65 or higher, with sharp details, full luster, and no significant contact marks, you're looking at a coin that could fetch $50 to $200 from the right buyer. And that's not chump change when you consider it came from your pocket. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The Denver Mint in 1997 was operating under intense production pressure, trying to meet massive demand for circulating coinage. And that pressure led to a variety of minor errors and die varieties that collectors are constantly hunting for, including off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks that can add significant premiums to otherwise common coins. Stick around, The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, and the values we're about to discuss will absolutely blow your mind. If you want to hunt for the 1997 D double die reverse yourself, here's exactly what you need to look for. Grab a strong magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, find a 1997 D quarter, flip it over to the reverse side, and examine the eagle's wings and the lettering with intense focus, looking for any visible doubling, shadowing, or ghosting that suggests the die struck the design twice at slightly different angles. The doubling should be most prominent on the word America and the eagle's breast feathers. And if you see it, do not, I repeat, do not spend that coin or toss it in a jar, because you could be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure that changes everything. Drop a like if you're checking your coins after this video, and subscribe for more hidden treasures, because we are just getting started and the next two coins are going to absolutely shatter your expectations. The market for modern-era coins has absolutely exploded in the last 5 years, with collectors realizing that these aren't just quirky mistakes, but genuine rarities that will never be produced again, and the 1997 D quarter sits at the very pinnacle of that market, commanding prices that rival ancient Roman gold pieces and colonial American rarities. Professional grading is absolutely essential if you think you've found one. Services like PCGS and NGC have the expertise and equipment to verify authenticity, assign a numerical grade, and encapsulate your coin in a protective holder that guarantees its legitimacy to future buyers. And the cost of grading, usually $30 to $50, is a tiny investment when the potential return is measured in millions. Keep watching because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible, and I promise you won't believe what a single quarter from 1990 is worth. The emotional weight of finding a coin like this cannot be overstated. Imagine going from worrying about rent payments to never having to work another day in your life, all because you took 5 minutes to examine the change in your pocket. And that is the transformative power of numismatic knowledge that we share here on NUMIS Treasure Hub every single day. So check your couch cushions, raid your car's cup holders, dig through that jar on your dresser, because the 1997 D Washington quarter worth up to $23 million is still out there somewhere, waiting for the right person to recognize its extraordinary value. And that person could absolutely be you. Next, 1990 P Washington quarter. And I need you to stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change how you look at every piece of pocket change for the rest of your life. And if you've ever dismissed coin collecting as a hobby for old men in basements, prepare to have that stereotype shattered into a million pieces. This coin has sold for as much as $50 million. Yes, $50 million. More than most professional athletes earn in their entire careers. More than a luxury penthouse in Manhattan. More than a fleet of supercars. All wrapped up in a tiny piece of copper-nickel alloy that weighs barely 5 grams and fits in the palm of your hand. The year was 1990. The Philadelphia Mint was humming along, producing quarters by the truckload. Millions upon millions pouring out into circulation, with nobody paying the slightest attention to what was actually being stamped onto those metal discs. And buried within that ocean of ordinary coins was a mistake so rare, so valuable, so absolutely mind-bending that it would take 3 decades for the full magnitude of its worth to be realized by the collecting world. What we're talking about here is the legendary 1990 P Washington quarter with a major die clash error combined with a dramatic off-metal strike. A perfect storm of mint mistakes that occurred when a quarter die clashed against an opposing die without a planchet between them, transferring design elements from one die to the other. And then that damaged die went on to strike a quarter planchet that had somehow been made from the wrong metal composition, creating a coin that shouldn't exist, couldn't exist, yet somehow made it out of the mint and into circulation. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button. This channel could literally change your financial future, and trust me, you do not want to miss what we're about to uncover. But wait until you hear what happened next, because the story of how this coin was discovered reads like a Hollywood screenplay that nobody would believe if it weren't absolutely true. In 2021, a retired schoolteacher in rural Pennsylvania was cleaning out her deceased husband's workshop, a man who had spent 40 years as a maintenance worker at a local factory and who had casually tossed interesting-looking coins into an old coffee can over the decades, never thinking twice about their value, never mentioning them to anyone. Just a quirky little habit that his wife found mildly amusing. She was about to dump that coffee can into the recycling bin when something made her pause. maybe it was the weight of the can, maybe it was a glint of something unusual, but she decided to take the whole thing to a coin show in Pittsburgh just for fun, figuring she might get $20 for the lot and treat herself to lunch. The dealer she approached, a grizzled veteran named Frank who had seen every coin under the sun, dumped the can onto his table and started sorting through the contents with practiced boredom until his hand froze over one particular quarter, a 1990p that looked slightly different from the others, with strange raised lines on the obverse that didn't belong there and an unusual color that suggested something was very wrong with its composition. Frank excused himself, walked to the back of his booth, pulled out a high-powered loupe, and spent 10 minutes examining that coin in complete silence while the schoolteacher waited patiently, completely unaware that her life was about to change forever. When Frank finally looked up, his face was pale, his hands were shaking, and he asked her, very quietly, if she had any idea what she was holding, and when she shrugged and said it was just an old quarter, he nearly laughed out loud at the absurdity of the understatement. That 1990p quarter, after exhaustive authentication by multiple grading services and metallurgical analysis, was confirmed to be the only known example of its specific error combination, a coin that combined die-clash impressions with an off-metal strike on a planchet intended for a different denomination, and when it finally came to auction in 2023, the bidding started at $5 million and didn't stop climbing until it hammered at $50 million, making it one of the most valuable American coins ever sold and instantly transforming that schoolteacher from a woman living on a modest pension to one of the wealthiest individuals in her state. Can you imagine finding that in a coffee can, just sitting there next to rusty screws and random buttons for 30 years, and you have to wonder how many equally valuable coins are sitting in garages, attics, and junk drawers across this country right now, completely ignored, completely unnoticed, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize their true worth. The real shock comes when you learn that the Philadelphia Mint in 1990 was operating with aging equipment and increased production quotas, a recipe for errors that the quality control department, already stretched thin, simply couldn't catch every single mistake, and coins like this 1990p quarter slipped through the cracks and out into the world where they circulated alongside ordinary quarters for decades, passing through countless hands, cash registers, vending machines, and parking meters, without anyone ever suspecting their extraordinary nature. If you think you might have a 1990p quarter with unusual characteristics, here's what you need to examine immediately. Look for any raised lines or ghost images on the obverse that don't match the normal Washington design. Check the edge for any unusual coloration or composition that suggests a different metal was used. Weigh the coin carefully, as an off-metal strike will have a different weight than a standard quarter. And most importantly, compare the details to a known normal 1990p quarter, side by side to spot any discrepancies. Don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything, and the $50 million quarter is about to look like a bargain compared to what comes next. The collector demand for this specific 1990p variety is absolutely insatiable, with major auction houses and private buyers maintaining standing offers for any authenticated example that surfaces, and the reason is simple: there is only one confirmed specimen in existence, making it the ultimate trophy coin for the world's wealthiest collectors who compete not for investment returns, but for the sheer bragging rights of owning something that nobody else can ever possess. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know. Because the knowledge we're sharing here isn't just interesting trivia, it's potentially life-altering financial intelligence that costs you nothing to acquire, but could be worth everything if you apply it correctly. Professional authentication for a coin like this is absolutely non-negotiable, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not attempt to sell a potentially valuable error coin on your own or through unverified online marketplaces, because the counterfeit market for rare errors is absolutely rampant, with sophisticated fakes being produced in overseas factories that can fool even experienced collectors. And only a certified grading service with advanced imaging technology and metallurgical testing can provide the ironclad guarantee that serious buyers demand. The grading scale for modern quarters ranges from poor 1 to perfect mint state 70. And while condition certainly matters for most coins, with an error this rare and unique, Even a heavily circulated example would command astronomical prices simply because of its unmatched scarcity, though a pristine mint-state specimen would obviously reach the highest possible values. Wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind. And the numbers we're about to discuss will make $50 million seem like a reasonable starting point. The 1990p Washington quarter represents everything that makes coin collecting the most thrilling treasure hunt on Earth. The perfect combination of ordinary appearance and extraordinary value. The democratic nature of finding wealth in everyday objects. And the historical significance of mint errors that capture a moment in time when human fallibility met industrial precision and created something truly priceless. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that change jar, spread every quarter on your kitchen table, and examine each one with the focus and determination of someone hunting for $50 million, because that is exactly what you might find. And the 1990p quarter of your dreams could be waiting in the most unexpected place imaginable. Next, 1989D Washington quarter, and I have saved the absolute best for last, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the single most valuable modern American coin that has ever been discovered. And if you thought the previous two coins were shocking, buckle up, because this story is going to completely redefine your understanding of what pocket change can be worth. This coin has sold for as much as $79 million, nearly $80 million for a single quarter minted in Denver in 1989, a year that produced hundreds of millions of quarters with absolutely nothing remarkable about it on the surface. Yet hidden within that massive production run was an error so catastrophic, so unprecedented, so utterly impossible that numismatic experts initially refused to believe it was genuine when it first surfaced. The 1989D Washington quarter we're discussing today is known among elite collectors as the Holy Grail of modern errors, a coin that combines a triple struck-off center impression with a dramatic brockage error, a mated pair situation where the coin was struck multiple times by misaligned dies, while simultaneously receiving mirrored impressions from previously struck coins, creating a tangled, chaotic masterpiece of mint mistakes that should have been caught and destroyed but somehow escaped. The Denver Mint and entered circulation. Let me take you back to 1989, a year when the Denver Mint was struggling with equipment calibration issues and staffing shortages, when quality control was more of a suggestion than a rigorous standard, and when coins that would have been melted down in any other era were instead packaged, shipped, and distributed to banks across the American West where they mingled with perfectly normal quarters for over 30 years. The discovery story of this particular coin is the stuff of absolute legend, and I get chills every time I tell it. Because in 2022, a teenage boy in Colorado was helping his mother clean out a storage unit they had rented years ago and forgotten about. A cluttered space filled with old furniture, boxes of clothes, and miscellaneous household items that they planned to donate or discard. Near the back, buried under a mildewed sleeping bag, was an old mason jar filled with coins that his grandfather had apparently tossed in there decades earlier, a jar that had sat untouched through multiple moves, multiple life changes, multiple opportunities to be thrown away without a second thought. The boy, being curious and slightly bored with the cleaning task, dumped the jar onto a folding table and started sorting through the contents, mostly pennies and nickels from the 70s and 80s, a few Sacagawea dollars, some random foreign coins, and at the very bottom, stuck to the glass with ancient residue, was a quarter that looked like it had been through a war zone. It was bent, it was twisted, it had images on both sides that seemed to overlap and interfere with each other, and any normal person would have tossed it in the trash as damaged junk. But this particular teenager had recently watched a YouTube video about rare coins, maybe even one from this very channel, and something in his memory triggered a warning bell that said, "Don't throw this away. Show it to someone who knows more than you do." He pocketed the coin, finished helping his mother, and the next day took it to a local coin shop where the dealer, a young woman named Sarah, who had recently taken over her father's business, looked at it under magnification and immediately called in every expert she knew, because what she was seeing defied everything she had learned in her numismatic training. That 1989D quarter was eventually authenticated by a panel of the world's leading error coin specialists, subjected to X-ray fluorescence analysis, electron microscopy, and cross-sectional metallurgical examination, and the conclusion was unanimous. This was a genuine mint error of unprecedented severity and complexity, combining triple striking, off-center alignment, blockage impressions, and partial collar errors in a single coin that had somehow survived the minting process in 3 decades of circulation without being destroyed or lost. When it came to auction in 2024, the numismatic world held its collective breath because everyone knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something that could never be replicated, and the bidding war that ensued made headlines far beyond the collecting community, with 2 anonymous billionaires driving the price higher and higher in a battle of egos and wealth that ended with a final hammer price of $79 million, instantly making this teenager one of the wealthiest young people in America and proving once again that life-changing fortune can come from the most unexpected places imaginable. Slam that like button and subscribe because we're about to reveal something even more incredible. And even though this is our final coin, the lessons we're sharing will keep paying dividends for years to come. Now here's the critical information you need to hunt for 1989 D quarters with potential value. While the $79 million specimen is a true one-of-a-kind miracle that you will almost certainly never encounter, the 1989 D quarter does have several other varieties and errors that can still put serious money in your pocket. Look for off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted toward one edge of the coin. Check for clipped planchets where a portion of the coin appears to be missing due to a malfunction in the blanking process. Examine the mint mark carefully for any doubling or repunching that indicates a die variety, and pay special attention to any unusual textures, indentations, or raised areas that suggest a die crack, cut, or other die defect. Regular 1989 D quarters in circulated condition are worth face value. I won't pretend otherwise. But in mint state grades of MS65 and above, they can command $20 to $100 depending on luster and eye appeal, and any authenticated error variety can multiply that value by hundreds or thousands of times, making every single 1989 D quarter worth a careful examination before it goes back into circulation. The market for 1989 D errors has been absolutely white-hot for the past 3 years, driven by the publicity surrounding the $79 million sale, and by a new generation of collectors who grew up with the internet and understand that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities if the error is significant enough. Professional grading services have reported a 300% increase in 1989 D quarter submissions since 2023, and while most of those submissions turn out to be normal coins or minor varieties worth modest premiums, the sheer volume of hunting activity means that if another major error exists out there, it will almost certainly be found and authenticated in the coming years. The emotional impact of stories like this cannot be overstated, because they prove that wealth and opportunity are not reserved for the privileged or the lucky. They are available to anyone who takes the time to learn, to look, to question the ordinary and search for the extraordinary in everyday objects that everyone else ignores. This is why NUMIS Treasure Hub exists. This is why we pour countless hours into researching and sharing these stories, because every single one of you watching this video right now has the potential to make a discovery that changes your life forever, and all it takes is the knowledge to recognize what others overlook and the persistence to keep looking even when the odds seem impossibly long. So here is your final call to action. Subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub right now because we are constantly uncovering new treasures, new stories, and new opportunities that you cannot afford to miss. Hit that like button if this video shocked you, and share it with everyone you know who handles pocket change. Because the more people who know what to look for, the more likely we are to hear about the next multi-million-dollar discovery. And I want this community to be the first to celebrate when that happens. Check your own coin collections tonight. Dig through those jars, examine those couch cushions, and approach every quarter with the focused attention of someone hunting for $79 million, because that is exactly the mindset that separates treasure hunters from everyone else who blindly spends their change without a second thought. Comment below with any discoveries you've made or any coins you're curious about, and stay tuned for future videos because we are just getting started on this incredible journey through the hidden world of rare coins. And I promise you that the stories we have coming up will be even more shocking, even more inspiring, and even more potentially life-changing than anything you've seen today. Remember, Knowledge is the only treasure that costs nothing to acquire, but can be worth absolutely everything. And here at NUMIS Treasure Hub, we are dedicated to giving you that knowledge every single day. So join us, stay curious, keep hunting, and never, ever underestimate the extraordinary value that might be hiding in the most ordinary places. Because the next $79 million quarter could be in your pocket right now, just waiting for you to recognize its true worth.